Wednesday, friends. It is podcast day. Welcome to episode 40. Do you believe it? Already 40 episodes of the Audit the Vote podcast. I'm your host this week, Tony Shoup, and unfortunately, I'm all you got tonight. We do not have any special guests, but we have a lot of stuff to talk about. But before we get into anything, one of the ways that you can best help us on our mission to save the Republic and rebuild liberty, especially in the election integrity space in the state of Pennsylvania, is you can like, share, and subscribe to whatever platform that you are watching us on. I'm trying to go live on my Substack account because I have the largest reach there, and I'm not sure if it's working. So I don't even know if there's a way for you to tell me if you're live on Substack, but if you are, please stick a comment wherever it's allowing you to stick comments to let me know that you can see me. And then, of course, we are on Spotify now and Apple Podcasts. That will get uploaded on Friday with just the audio portion. We have a ton of stuff to cover. We're going to close out with my book that I'm writing called Lead with Your Strengths, a grassroots survival guide for grassroots patriots. We'll close out with that, but we have a bunch of stuff to cover in the meantime. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you do nothing else, that is one of the easiest ways that you can support us, is by following our work and sharing it with like-minded friends and family and telling them about us, because we are finding our footing at Audit the Vote as election integrity watchdogs, which is a sorely needed organization all across the country. Is the biggest thing missing from 2020 is there were too many people asleep, not paying attention, no clue what the heck was going on. And when we woke up and realized, holy cow, we actually have a civic duty to get involved here, we are keeping an eye on stuff. And the voter rolls are constantly changing, which is it's not a new development for us this week, but people are starting to realize that, wait a minute, I thought that voter registration is going in the right direction. But Kelly from the chapter leader Pennsylvania for Walkaway is noticing, she's actually tracking weekly the changes in the voter rolls. And she's noticing, like, wait a second, there's counties that are actually going up in Democrat voters and down in Republicans. And I thought we're supposed to be gaining, we're supposed to be winning. And the takeaway from that is voter registration isn't how we win this battle. It's one tiny piece to the puzzle. I'm not saying don't go register a voter, but it's certainly not going to be the game changer. And more and more people are starting to see that. But hey, Lola, good to see you. First up on the docket, I want to bring some attention to, for those that might not be following every bit of election integrity, is True the Vote announced a win this week in the Texas House in their court system. I believe it was the Fifth Circuit Court ruling that overturned actually a lawsuit that a bunch of left-wing organizations filed challenging an election integrity law that the state legislature passed in Texas back in 2021. True the Vote is saying that this is a win for election integrity. I don't disagree at all. It's basically, the law was requiring, if you wanted a mail-in ballot, that you had to put something in for voter ID. Basically requires voter ID to get a mail-in ballot. Like, why is that a bad idea? And of course, a bunch of left-wing NGOs, including the ACLU, including the League of Women Voters, have the list right in front of me. There's like 5 to 10 different organizations that actually challenged this law and said that it disenfranchised voters and it wasn't fair for minorities. And of course, all the standard stuff that we hear from the people that tell us that we are not doing the right thing by pushing for election integrity, which is completely ludicrous, in my opinion. All those folks filed a lawsuit. It ruled in their favor, but it was appealed, and the Fifth Circuit finally ruled the right way, in my opinion. The American ACLU already said that. Texas Civil Rights Project, Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. Like, how is that even an organization just for a specific nationality, but we're the side that's racist? I don't get it. Disability rights for Texas. And of course, the League of Women Voters were actually the ones that originated the lawsuit back in 2021, saying that a federal district court in San Antonio, you've got to be kidding, that's where I'm headed next week. It's where the Patriot Academy campus is, in Fredericksburg. You fly into the San Antonio airport. Side note, issued an injunction in August of 2023, ruling that the provisions likely violated the law because they wanted ID matching requirements on mail-in ballots. Now, Pennsylvania, mind you, would argue that we already have that because you have to apply for a mail-in ballot. And when you apply in Pennsylvania for a ballot, you have to put on your application either your driver's license number or your social security number. And so they would say, well, we do have that in Pennsylvania. And we do, except that the Secretary of State's office has put directives out instructing the counties that they need to send the requester a mail-in ballot, even if those numbers are not validated, which is where we got our unverified mail-in ballot report that we did back in 2022. We are still keeping a close eye on that information because the counties are essentially, or the Secretary of State in Pennsylvania told the counties, you don't have to worry about that. Just anybody that applies, send it to them. Before you count the vote, though, when they bring their ballot in, if they're unverified, we'll need to make sure that they show some ID and they verify they are who they are. That was their stopgap. That was it's going to be fine. We'll fix it. No big deal. Of course, I don't know that I need to belabor the point of how I feel about that, but at any rate, this is True the Vote is saying this is a good thing for election integrity in the state of Texas. I don't disagree, but again, it's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of how it should be. They just upheld the law, basically. The state legislatures pass a law. They're the closest to the people. And of course, you can challenge that law in court. That's the constitutional process of actually challenging a law that you don't agree with, is you take it to the court system. But why in the world a court would rule against what the state legislature actually wrote that is protecting our elections? I don't think I will ever understand that. But thank you, Catherine Engelbrecht and everybody at True the Vote. They have been in this fight since 2009. I just got an email from them this week celebrating 15 years on the ground nationwide. Catherine is based in Texas, and if it wasn't for them, we might not have hit the numbers that we hit with people questioning the legitimacy of the 2020 election. Let me pivot into this for a second as we're going into campaign season, although it feels a little early, but the rumblings on the ground in Pennsylvania is that the state GOP is going to endorse Stacey Garrity for governor. And it also looks like Senator Doug Mastriano is going to announce his bid to run again for governor. I have no inside information on this, no inside baseball. I have not spoken to the senator. I don't have a relationship with Stacey Garrity yet, so I can't really comment inside baseball on that. But what I will say is if that does happen, we're going to be looking at quite a bit of infighting. So it's going to make like the me and Scott Pressler, Brandon Strock situation look like nothing. So put your boots on and get ready. And maybe my handbook will help us with that, because it's all about what happens when things blow up in your face and there's strife and chaos in the movement. What do we do? We're going to talk about that later in the episode. Enough about that. Again, thank you, True the Vote. On to GOP stuff. No, governor. Birthday graphics. Actually, Joel, if you will. Hello, Kim. I'm checking the comments. Good to see you guys here. I know, ugh, she says ugh, because we're so tired of this. I don't want the infighting. I was talking to somebody today about, let's try to think through this objectively. And I understand, actually, this is a good topic to hit on before we go into. Joel, cue up the, have ready the graphic for the happy birthday graphics. We're going to show those because I want to talk about those birthday graphics. They're getting a lot of traction on Twitter. Let's put our hat on of let's just say for a second that the state GOP is honest and they're trying to do the right thing. And if you look at 4 years ago during the governor race, Josh Shapiro did not have any contenders, nobody. They knew he was their candidate. They fully backed him. And then, of course, we saw what happened. Perhaps the right is looking at that and going, that's maybe a better strategy, is that we're just going to pick one candidate early and we're going to back them. Maybe. I don't agree that the voters shouldn't get to decide in the what's the purpose of a primary if you're going to endorse ahead of time? I just don't really get that. But looking at maybe trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, and they're looking at beating Shapiro, and let's face it, I love Doug Mastriano. I consider him a friend. But a woman might have a better chance beating Shapiro. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm one side or the other, because the first thing I want to ask Stacey Garrity, if she does run, is do you think 2020 was a fair election? Because if her answer is, oh yeah, it was fine, out. That's my litmus test. Granted, it's a very biased litmus test, but that is my litmus test for candidates that I support. If your head is in the sand and you think that 2020 was a totally fair, legit election, we have a problem and you are not the candidate for me. Just me. But we'll see. We'll see how it all unfolds. I'm not picking a side. I'm not taking I'm just going to sit back and watch and see what happens, because we have plenty of work to do, whether or not the state starts fighting and with each other over who the gubernatorial candidate is going to be. There is tons of work left to be done. That being said, since I saw Kim on here, hey lady, hoping that B-Day graphics for Monco. There might be one in there, I'm not sure. I got to sync up with you because being Kim, we are going to be having a Patriot Academy Constitution Coach Conference in Pennsylvania on the eastern side of the state on November the 1st. So if you were at my last one and loved it, you should come back to the next one. And if you've never been to one before, this will be a chance to actually see Rick Green live and in person. Also get a ton of encouragement and training as far as what is Patriot Academy doing to save the Republic for the next generation. Coolest stuff ever, really and truly. Joel, cue up that graphic. I'm going to have him play this video. We're getting a lot of questions about these birthday graphics that we've been sharing on our social media all year. I'm going to shut up so he can play this, and then we'll talk some more. So we've been doing those. I do those at the end of the month. I take all of the birthday graphics that we posted throughout the month, and I do that little reel because it's just kind of a fun way to showcase that we got issues. Our voter rolls are not accurate until we actually get local control of the voter rolls. I don't know that they'll ever be completely accurate. And right now it's a total mess because they're centralized in the State Department, and a lot of it is shrouded in mystery. So we don't even know exactly what's tracked, how it's tracked, where it goes, lost in cyberspace, everything is. And so, but we do get people on the other side of the aisle that are questioning these graphics and if they are legitimate and where does the data come from. And so I wanted to cover a little bit of that in this episode so that you understand when you're sharing these with people that this is not, yes, we're making like a funny play on them, but that's just to, first of all, make us not all want to go take the gas pipe, because we realize we're in this for the long haul. And this is kind of a long road that we've all embarked on together that many of us never thought we would be. And you have to stay positive and upbeat. And what better way to do that than to add humor? But we're not really making fun of it. It's a serious issue that we're just trying to bring some light to and some humor so that we can all stay sane, but also keep in front of the public's eye that our voter rolls are not accurate. And that's my main issue with voter registration is until we get accurate voter rolls, and our hands are tied a million ways to Sunday. I don't have the time to get into that. The federal laws that we come up against, the different things that we have tried to clean, quote unquote, clean voter rolls, until we get local control of the voter rolls, I doubt we're going to have any real meaningful change when it comes to voter registration drives. All that being said, the data is coming from, and Joel, if you could pull up that automated report that I sent you, I want to show you where the data is coming from that we're using these graphics for. And I'll also put this in the show notes. If you are not subscribed to my Substack, even as a free subscriber, go to tonyshoop.substack.com and get on the list. It'll also get you on the list for the handbook stuff once it launches on the 18th of August. But also I put show notes out from the podcast on Friday, and we'll have all the links from the show in there if you want to go back and look at something again. Our data validation overview, there are 8.8 million voter records that were run through the USPS verification called National Change of Address and CAS, C-A-S-S. Those are two affiliates that the government actually uses. Those are the entities the government uses to validate their data. Now, if you've been around this block for any period of time, you're starting to realize that anytime the government gets involved in something, it has a tendency to turn to crap and not be at all accurate. So we can argue, are those systems even accurate? I would say probably not, but they are what our government is using to check everything and tell us that everything's fine, is totally cool. The CAS ensures that address formatting is correct, and the NCOA actually compares records against 160 million USPS change of address filings to flag people that have moved. There it is. And this comes from Cause of America, Mike Lindell starting the nonprofit, Vico working now full-time for them and getting a snapshot of all 50 states. The co-founder of Audit the Vote, Karen Taylor, of course, still working for them in the partnership side, and a lot of good people doing a lot of good work there nationwide, have their hands on the pulse in terms of what's happening with the data and election integrity. But we posted birthday graphics, we're calling them centenarians, and reporting that voters that are 115 years or older are triggering our happy birthday graphics. They are active registrations of individuals well beyond the normal life expectancy. And so we're highlighting that in a series for our irregularity in our voter rolls. And so the move data, I want to break down two different things that this report highlights. There's 390,764 permanent moves that were identified in the Pennsylvania voter rolls. So that's just under almost 400,000, just under 500,000 people that were flagged as moving. In and of itself is not cause for alarm. It's the maintenance issues that seem to be coming along with it. And out of those 390,000 that moved, 161,000 were out of state. So they moved to a whole different state. Now, I don't know about you, but I think if you don't live in Pennsylvania as your main residence, you ought not be casting a ballot here. And that's where we get into some trouble. 37,000 of them just changed counties, out of county moves, and 150,000 of those moves, again, that total of 390,000, were in county moves back and forth. But the voter registrations have not been updated by the state or the county. That's what this shows when we pulled this report, meaning that they can vote in their old precinct or still appear active when they shouldn't. So this is the precursor to voter fraud. This is what allows the systems to be used, is not keeping the voter rolls clean. Talking about USPS delivery issues, 204,589 addresses identified where the USPS does not deliver mail. Wonder how that's working out for people that are signing up to get their mail-in ballots. What if the USPS doesn't deliver mail? Yes, the audio played for the video, Joel. Thank you for asking. 204,000 USPS does not deliver mail. Some of them are PO boxes. Some of them are just non-residential, like the post office, or just an undeliverable route. 47,280 of the addresses were flagged as likely undeliverable. 55,387 were listed as vacant by the USPS. So I'm not sure what else I can possibly say to impart upon the listeners that this is a very real issue. This is a very real issue. It's not something we're pulling out of the sky and making up without any data to back it up. Out of state mailing addresses, 29,472 registrations have mailing addresses in a different state than where they are registered to vote. 29,000, that could swing any election, including presidential, certainly Senate, House, and school board races. That's where this all comes from, is we've got to start local, because they start taking the school boards and it goes from there. Other major red flags, we have commercial mail receiving agencies like UPS stores. There's about 2,000 records. Those are unlikely that those are residential. And then there's something we are categorizing as phantom routes. 39,632. USPS route R777 that gets plugged into this report is a phantom route that's flagged for suspicious or non-existent delivery addresses. And there's 39,000 of those. So this is where our birthday graphics are coming from. We have all the receipts. And so if you are one of the ones helping us on social media combat the left and the people that say, well, did they vote? It only matters if they vote. I get it. It's only fraud if the voter that doesn't belong on the voter rolls, doesn't live in Pennsylvania anymore, actually cast a ballot. And that's not part of this analysis. And I make sure that's not in the birthday graphics. It's not the point. The point of this is to make sure the public understands that there's still issues. That's one of the areas that we lost all of this in the first place. Our media conglomerates ended up, 1,500 media sources owned by 6 different major corporations, and they own the narrative. And we are fighting back and clawing back with everything we've got by keeping things like this front and center, which, speaking of, if you're willing and able to support us, you can go to auditthevotepA.com/donations, and you can help us start to build our infrastructure and our caddy to stop the steal of the midterms, because I don't think 2020 is the last time they're going to try. I would be fully supportive of an audit of the 2024 election, because I'm not so sure how certain down ballot races were lost. And we are an election integrity watchdog organization. So I don't care what side of the aisle that you're on. We want free and fair elections that are transparent completely, and the vote counting and vote reporting process, which is something we are going to have a long slog to get to. So your money will go to good use in the state of Pennsylvania for election integrity when your donation goes through Audit the Vote PA/donations. Let me check the comments before we go into before we go into lead with your strengths. I want to tell you guys the story of how that came about and give you a little bit of preview of what we are looking at. Comments. Thank you, Liberty Lion. Yes, please share on Blue Sky. We will definitely have guests back. We will next week. I will be in Texas for the podcast, and I will be trying to give you guys a tour of the Patriot Academy campus and maybe get some heavy hitters that are going to be out there to just say hello. Who knows? Maybe I'll even get Rick Green to sit down in the tavern. But next week I will be streaming live from Texas, and then we're working on getting more guests lined up after that. Kim, good question. Curious, if you're homeless, you can mark an X on the corner of Main and Nut, and supposedly you can get a mail-in ballot. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, and we did have instances. Again, this is why local is so important. I did sit down with one county commissioner who was, I won't name which one it is to not throw him under the bus, but did actually say that they did have some homeless people in their county that they allowed to vote, and they did something to make the person have an address where they could actually vote. Now, we could argue all day long, I guess, over whether or not that's legal. It's probably not legal, but should we allow someone who's homeless, regardless of the circumstances? I guess that's another factor that could come into play, not to vote, or you say you're disenfranchising voters. Okay, I can get on board with that, I suppose, but should there be like tens of thousands of those in the state? I'm going to go with a no on that one. And this week, you're likely going to see a lot of changes in the voter rolls, because in order to comply with the NVRA law, it's federal law, National Voter Registration Act, that was passed in 1993. According to that law, they are required to do list maintenance. That's what the law calls it. We call it cleaning the voter rolls and keeping them accurate. List maintenance no later than 90 days before an election. And so if you do the math, 90 days before election day is typically the first week of August. And it's what the counties have used to kind of stiff arm us when we go to them and say, hey, here's a bunch of inactive voters on your rolls. You might want to take them off or do something. Here's some dead people. And if we're in that window between the 90 days before an election, they say, well, we can't, because we'll be violating the NVRA law, the federal law, if we do that. And that's actually not what the law says. It's what they're interpreting it to mean, because they don't want clean voter rolls. At least that's our opinion. It is what it is. The Constitution. I know, an amendment to the Constitution. Lola's shaking your head. It's a lovely little predicament that we're in here, but duty is ours and results are God's. And many of you watching and listening probably know that story already. So won't belabor that point. Since I'm by myself, how am I doing on time? Oh my gosh, I'm still talking 24 minutes. Let's charge into the story behind the book that I wrote, or Handbook, or I've changed the title a couple of times. Of course, those that know me know my creative juices are all over the place all the time. And so my editor, I think I'm driving him completely insane. We're on maybe version 5 now, because I'll get it, I'll proofread it, and I'll want to add something or change something or take something away. But let me explain to you guys where this came from, so that you can understand what I think is going to be tremendous value for anybody that's in grassroots organizing, or really any relationships, so to speak, at all. I read a book and utilized a book through my pre-political life, which, believe it or not, there was one before 2020, although it was mostly wiping butts and feeding faces. But I did get involved in the direct sales industry when I was in my early 20s, and built a business with a relative amount of enough success that I left corporate America when I was 28. I left the corporate world. At the time, it was to take care of my dad, who was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer. And the time that I spent with him, he survived 3.5 years. And that time is very precious to me. The memories that we made together, I treasure forever. I tell my kids about them all the time. So I am not sorry at all that I took that path. And in taking that path, I was exposed to a lot of what I would call self-help books and leadership books and, gurus supposedly in that arena. The one that really sticks out to me that this handbook is based on is called Personality Plus by Florence Littauer. And I know there's a ton of those out there now. There's the Enneagram, there's the DISC method, there's the Myers-Briggs, and I'm not putting any of those down. They all have their place within that sphere. This is just the one that I resonate the most with because the words in it, the personality types that they categorize into, there's 4 of them, they're Greek words. So this actually goes back to the ancient Greeks and how they looked at temperaments. And there's another spiritual book by Tim LaHaye called Spirit Controlled Temperament that also looks at it from this angle. So I, of course, always prefer something if it comes a little bit from a biblical angle. And I feel like this does. So the personality piece of this is based on Personality Plus by Florence Littauer. And I used that to understand myself, my strengths, my weaknesses, but also in understanding the people around me. Because before politics, I guess you could say I was a professional cat herder. So what I did bring to the table of this entire arena was not an experience in any type of political sphere, but I did have a lot of experience presenting and speaking and certainly working with groups of people and getting them moving forward towards a goal, helping them get along. And I feel like we've done even more of that in politics over the last 5 years. I maybe want to get a counseling license when this is all said and done. But what I realized is that I used the skills that I had that I learned in Personality Plus and the work that I did before the political realm, and it automatically transferred into hosting Constitution classes, Patriot Academy, Audit the Vote. And I think it had a big part in why the movement took off and was so successful as it was. Of course, I could never have done it by myself. I also think the reason Audit the Vote was successful is because I had helpers. I had 2 other ladies with me at the time that helped get it off the ground, that definitely did a lot of heavy lifting. I don't think I would have had the success, or Audit the Vote, I should say, would have had the success it did without them. But I also see what I brought to the table in my skill set before politics, I also think had a factor. And so the way this handbook came about was Rick Green reached out to me about maybe a month or 3 months. I don't remember when, and invited us to go to the Patriot Academy campus, which we spent 2.5 weeks as a family, one of the founding families of Constitution City, Texas, which is so cool that they're doing that. When I decided, he pitched the idea for me and our family to go down there. And when we said yes, he then asked, well, will you teach a workshop or a course, whatever you want to call it, on grassroots organizing? Because of what we did with Audit the Vote, he seems to think I'm a subject matter expert. I would argue I'm nowhere near an expert. I just have a lot of experience. But that's what started this whole project off, is I had to teach a course, a workshop. And so I started putting together my notes, of course, pulling out my trusty, I have the book right here. And no, I don't get paid to promote this in any way, shape, or form, although I probably should reach out to the author and figure out if I can. That I pulled out all my people skills stuff, and I really started thinking through how Audit the Vote came together, where we're at today, the speed bumps in the road, and all of those things kind of mashing together. And I just started putting notes together for a presentation, if you will, as a workshop I was going to do with the students. And I needed to have a handout. So the book actually started as just a handout that I was going to give to the 40, 50 students at the Patriot Intensive. And the handout turned into a pamphlet, because it's just creative juices when your mind functions like mine and goes in a million different directions all at once and has a really hard time focusing on any one area. I'm not a detail-oriented person. I'm very big picture, very visual. It started growing. So the handout turned into a pamphlet, which turned into a booklet. And now we're at a 63-page book that's called Lead with Your Strengths, a survival guide for grassroots patriots. Because I've seen so many movements get off the ground, and something happens and it shatters, whether it's burnout, whether it's disagreements, personality clashes, somebody thinking we should go one direction. We're going to see it in this. If the state GOP announces an endorsement for Stacey Garrity, look out, we're going to see it all over again. And I think we can minimize some of that. At least I've seen it in my life pre-politics. If we understand one another and we understand how we're wired, and that's really the crux of all of this. So I started the handbook with that in mind. And I will say, if you have a tendency to think some of this stuff is, oh, that's just like rah, inspirational self-help, I don't need that. I do want to tell you one quick story about how this had an impact in my life as a mom and parenting and family, and why that I've become super passionate. And this is maybe the lane that God is calling me to next within this arena, is to train grassroots groups on all of this. Is my daughter, who's now 14, I wish, try to talk her into coming into the podcast, see if she would tell this story, but she wasn't quite comfortable. Maybe eventually I'll drag her into here. I had my kids in a private Christian school when COVID happened, and my oldest daughter was in 3rd grade. And so I have 3 girls. And so pray for me, because the drama is, I'm sure at some point for all 3 of them, we're learning how to navigate it with the 14-year-old. It's getting a little bit better. 12 to 13 was psychological warfare, and it started getting a little bit better after that. I knew, having all girls, at some point I was going to deal with a crazy amount of drama, because just they're girls. I just didn't know exactly when it was going to hit. And when Savannah was in 3rd grade and Juliet, my middle one, was 4, she was in preschool, and Hallie, who's now almost 8, can't believe it, was 2, a little over 2. 3rd grade is when the drama hit. It's when she started coming home from school crying in tears, and so said this, and they left me out of that, and blah, 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 just all that. The worst thing that you can possibly imagine as a mom of what you're going to have to live through with your child in terms of mean girls, if you wish, came to life in our household when Savannah was in 3rd grade. And so I had her read this book. I'm like, well, and I'm just throwing spaghetti against a wall. Of course, reading every parenting manual and asking anybody that had a daughter that was her age or a little bit older that had navigated this, how do I handle this? And she loved to read. Savannah loves to learn. I'm struggling to get my other 2 interested in this, and I wanted to force Juliet this summer to read the book, but we're getting there. So if you have a child that isn't interested, that's okay too. But Savannah was very interested in books. So I had her read it. She took the personality quiz that's in the front. She figured out what she was, and she read the book in about, I want to say, a week or so. And I'm not kidding you. When she finished the book, I did not have another drama issue the rest of that school year. Not one. She started coming home, instead of tears and defensive and they don't like me and they did this, she started coming home going, Mom, I think that so-and-so just maybe didn't understand what I was trying to say. Or I think that because I'm so perfectionist and they're not, that's why we were clashing when we were working on that project, because they just were not seeing things from the same angle. And it was like a relief and a light bulb and heartwarming all at the same time. I don't know how to put it into words as a mom, the peace that gave me, and how I thought, oh my gosh, okay, maybe this is how I'll handle this with the rest of the girls. And I had her reread it when, I want to say last summer. She's read it twice now, because then when she hit puberty and we started going through those types of things, which is a ton of fun. Again, that was psychological warfare. The drama restarted and kicked up, and she read it again, and it did wonders for her. It did wonders for me as a parent too, because learning that all your kids, they're wired differently. God gives them strengths, and then because we live in a fallen world, there's weaknesses, and those things combine. But if you can understand your strengths and you can minimize your weaknesses through just active daily work, it is a game changer in terms of sanity. I watched my daughter go from a stressed out and upset to balanced and sane. And she's not perfect. It's not a perfect science by any means, but it did make a huge difference. And so what I've done with the handbook, oh, thank you. Nice, good parenting. What I've done with the handbook is I've translated a lot of this into grassroots organizing. And I do want to show you guys a little bit of it to give you a sneak peek of how it's put together. So Joel, when you get a chance, if you would pull the cover up there, we'll go through the table of contents. It was initially designed to be just work sessions, like a study group you could either do personally or with groups of people. But I've also now added chapters, and I've told the story through each one. There's 8 sessions, and now there's the cover, I think. Although before it goes live, August 18th is the day it's going to go live. If you want to keep up with it and get access to it, you need to be on my Substack, tonyshoop.substack.com. You can sign up for free, just a free subscriber. If you upgrade to paid, you will get a preview copy before the launch date of August 18th. You'll get a free digital copy. I am right now trying to figure out the offerings for paid subscribers versus free. I will have hard copies available, but I am doing mostly digital. So it'll be mostly a digital download. I'm setting that up right now. So you will be able to just get it digitally if you're not on Substack. But if you want the free preview, be on Substack. I'm going to release it a few days before the 18th for my paid subscribers as a thank you for supporting me on this journey, because without you, I could not have afforded to continue down this path. Joel, go ahead and go to the table of contents and let's show people. Yes, Lola, you will be able to buy a hard copy. In fact, I printed a hard copy. Oh, I have it right here. The first one I got, I printed from FedEx. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do that as my official printer because this was $18. And I'm like, I don't know that people are even going to pay that if I'm going to even price it at $20. And in order for it to be worth my time, I have to charge a little bit more than that. So good. You're a real book kind of gal. That's good. I'm definitely going to have some on hand. I'm just going to lead with the digital first. And once I find a printer and get all that out of the way, I am not paying $18 to print one of these. I just needed to have one so that I could see what it looked like and wanted to edit it a little bit. So stay tuned for that. Table of contents. So there's an introduction of how to use it, an explanation of why understanding your personality type matters. All those other ones that we mentioned, the Enneagram and DISC, Myers-Briggs, I don't know that they look at it from an angle of God has wired you a certain way. A lot of the anything psychology you study will teach you, like, is this nature or nurture? That's one of the questions that's answered in the book early on. Is this your natural tendency or is it because who you're around? But the book has a very good level-headed argument of saying, it's actually both. God does give you certain strengths and you're wired in such a way it's embedded into your DNA, but it also then who you're around tends to shape some of those traits as well. So it's actually both. And when you take the personality quiz, most people are a combination. They're not one dominant personality. They're a combination of at least two. And that's likely due to nature plus nurture is actually what makes you who you are. And understanding that can be such a game changer. I've done a whole page on that. And then there's an actual personality quiz in there, which I'm also working on getting in an online format. So you'll just be able to go to it and click it, take it online. You don't have to add the stuff up yourself. And at the end, it'll spit out and say, this is what you are. I know Joel, did I give you this book? I don't know if I gave you this book or not. I was trying to get my leadership folks to read this. Some of them actually did. I don't remember, Joel, if I gave you one and if you read it or not, but chapter 1 is you are not broken, you're wired for this. And so I've written each chapter with a story from my own personal journey and tied all of this in together, both pre-politics and post-politics in the activism realm. And then I've built a session, which is like a work session, if you will, of exercises you can do, whether it's yourself or you're with a group of people, to start developing yourself. Develop in your leadership skills and your communication skills, understanding. And I think what I foresee a lot of this doing is minimizing friction and chaos in grassroots movements and getting groups to work better together, navigate when they disagree in a constructive way that doesn't destroy them. And that's a big piece that we're missing. And from my perspective, in the grassroots in Pennsylvania, and maybe nationwide, we can say this now with Patriot Academy, since I have a little bit different vantage point there. The grassroots, we are desperate for leadership in the grassroots and people that understand responsibility and how to get groups of people who don't all agree all the time to find common ground and move forward together. You will be shocked sometimes at talking with other conservatives that you think are like-minded, how much we don't agree when it really gets down to the nitty-gritty. But you have to understand that that's normal, and we have to learn to find common ground and build bridges. That's how legislation is passed also, by the way. Not the crazy, I don't know what to do with the crazy left lunatics. I mean, if you come to me and you want to defend men playing in women's sports, just my brain puts you in a whole different category. I don't really know what to do with you. I don't know that I even care what personality type you are. But within our own, and you see it when the more you work in the conservative circles, that we don't agree as much as you might think. And we have to figure out a way through that disagreement. Conservatives are not great. I don't know if it's MAGA or if it's just grassroots in general are really good at writing people off, saying, well, you don't agree with XYZ, so you're out, and you don't agree with this, and so I'm not going to work with you. And it's like, is that the best strategy? I don't know if that's the best strategy. I will get my Substack address posted in there. And so the chapters go on: finding your lane, chapter 2, chapter 3, say it so they can hear it, learning how to communicate, because communication is not what you say, it's what the other person hears. So how many times I do this in my marriage on a daily basis? I have constant conversations in my head that I think came out of my mouth and I told my husband. And when we have like a little bit of friction and disagreement, I realize it never actually came out of my mouth. It was just all stuck in my head. Then sometimes it does come out of my mouth, but he hears something totally different than what I intended him to get. So communication is a lot of that. Say it so they can hear it. If you don't understand how the other person takes in information, you can be saying something, thinking, and they're getting a whole different thing out of it. So that chapter is on that. Thank you for sticking my Substack up there. Free thinkers, actually thinkers on like the left, right, Kim? Oh my gosh. People in general. Terrence, great to see you. People over projects, and that's chapter 4. And that is some of us that are task focused. Maybe by the time I'm done with this, you'll figure out which personality I am if you don't already know. People over projects, those that are task focused have a tendency not to focus on people as a whole. And you lose volunteers the minute they don't feel like they are valued or important, or that they don't bring anything to the table. And this actually, I would say this is my Achilles heel in politics, is I have trained my brain. It's also in my nature. I see the good in other people when nobody else does, even in this crazy political arena. But that also, I think, is why sometimes people follow me, but it's also not always a good thing. That's all we'll say about that. People over projects. Joel, go to the next page. Chapter 5, I think, is the best one, maybe the most helpful. It is when it blows up in your face. What do we do with chaos? It's not a matter of if, and when you're in grassroots, if there's going to be chaos, it's when is it actually going to happen? And so when it blows up in your face is dedicated to that, as well as conflict resolution. The work session with that is really good too. And chapter 7 is keep showing up. And chapter 8 is the work is yours now. And then I've put a bunch of companion tools in here that can be used and reused and copied as you continue in your journey, whether it's running for office or your whatever type of activism. Even if you're in a church trying to grow, anything that you're doing, I think this is going to apply not just to political grassroots, anything that you're doing with a group of people and you're trying to work together and get it moving forward. This is going to help. So go to the next page. Oh, Lola, you got it. Sanguine. So there's 4. The other thing I want to do, I added this. So this page you're looking at right now, before you begin, 3 truths every grassroots organizer must know. These were my notes that were the handout I was going to give the students when Rick Green asked me to do the workshop in Texas. This was it. So this is where it started. And then look at this. It's blown into this full-blown handbook. And these are just 3 things that I found were crucial to getting a movement off the ground and getting volunteers plugged in quickly, having them be effective at what they're doing quickly, which creates duplication and a sense of being part of something that allows them, just allows it to grow quicker than not. Clarity wins. You have to have a mission, message, and a call to action has to be simple. Most grassroots movements collapse not because people don't care, but because they're confused. So confusion, 2 things will kill a grassroots organizer in terms of action. And that's if they're confused and it's chaotic, or if they're scared. So as a leader, you are trying to minimize confusion, chaos, and fear. I consider confusion and chaos 1, I guess it's kind of 3. But if we're looking at just confusion and fear, if you can minimize confusion and fear, you will keep your volunteers in an active participation mode, which will likely get the ball moved down the field so you can get closer to whatever it is, the mission that you're trying to accomplish. The second piece in these 3 bullet points are that people say yes to emotion, not logic. People are emotional creatures. The left is so good at this. And the right, I'd like to say we're getting better. If you, logically speaking, for many of us that looked at the 2020 election, says this makes no sense. We went to bed Tuesday night. He was up 700,000 votes. We woke up Wednesday morning. They found votes all week. And then somehow Joe Biden won the election. It made no logical sense. And yet, if we didn't appeal to the emotions, it was the emotional side of it that got people engaged in the movement. It wasn't the legit, because logically, a lot of people go, oh, I don't see it that way. Okay. But emotionally speaking, getting somebody on the left to understand was pointing out to them how Hillary Clinton screamed for 4 years that 2016 was stolen, and how the machines, Kamala Harris, we've all seen the mashup of Kamala Harris pointing out how vulnerable electronic voting machines are. And then in 2020, they all just went dead silent. But it's being able to recall those and pull out emotions of people. They are emotional. You have to figure out how to craft your message that tugs on the emotional strings and not just logic. And the last one is don't be afraid to find people in the movement that aren't clones of you. We need all four. There's 4 basic personality types. I'm going to have Joel play some fun videos just to Lola. She's a choleric. You know how to get stuff done. I love cholerics. They get stuff done, man. Look out. You give them a task and they are on it. There's 4 basic personality types. Joel, I'll have this. I don't know that we'll play them all at once. There's what's called the sanguine, is the life of the party. Cue that video up, Joel. That one is the firework picture. Cue up the firework picture. Good. Yes, please like the video, share it. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube or whatever it is.
When you said goodbye, my whole world shined. Hey, 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 it's a beautiful day and I can't stop myself from smiling. If I drink and then I'm buying, and I know there's no denying, it's a beautiful day to...
All right, so that's quick and punchy and you get the idea. Can you guess what I am? Oh yeah, a little bit of that one. I'm actually a blend of 2 of them, but that is definitely my dominant personality, is the sanguine, life of the party. Little scatterbrained, a lot scatterbrained actually. Queen Post-it note, gets super excited about things and go a million directions, and then a lot of stuff falls off the plate. So there's a lot to unpack within each one. But if you're watching this and you saw that video and you think that that is you, stick it in the chat so I can identify my fellow sanguines. You are in good company. The next one is called the choleric. The choleric is the born leader, very task driven, very able to get things done. The downside is sometimes they tend to be a steamroller, but if you can figure out how to work with these folks, they get crap done. Joel, that is the one with the compass. So when you get the compass queued up, let's do that one next.
Do what you wanna do. I can't tell you what a song you do. It's your turn. Do what you wanna do. I can't tell you what a song you do. If you want me to love you, maybe I will. Believe me, woman.
Can you tell I had something like dancing along to these on the side? Can you tell I had fun putting these together? So that's the choleric. And Lola, you said that you are the choleric, and that means you know how to get stuff done. That doesn't surprise me at all. Terrence, admitting to scatterbrain, admirable. I don't know if there's anything admirable about that, but see, because I know my weaknesses, I studied this stuff for 20 years before politics. So I know I can give you a list before the small fan club forming of people that don't like me around the state. I could give you a list that would probably match theirs. And that's okay. We're all wired differently. You are not perfect. No one is perfect. Speaking of perfection, the next one is the chart one. Pull that one up, Joel. This is the melancholy. This is the perfectionist, detail-oriented. We need these people. I need these people in my life desperately. Play the chart one, the melancholy. Love the chat in the comments. Look how peaceful. Those people are they are vital, vital, vital pieces to every movement, because folks like me and like Lola, she says, it's funny, Lola, I'm doing a companion sheet. So for people that take the personality test, I'm going to be able to send you, if you let me know you took it and what blend you are, I will send you an exact outline with grassroots organization in mind of here's probably what you're good at, here's what you might be struggling with, and here's how to handle that so that you can be better. Is the choleric literally the one just said they don't like to waste time. There's like 4 bullet points of what they hate, and wasting time was one of them. So that made me think of you. And What's the next one? Liberty Lion sounds like you have heart trouble, choleric. And the book calls it a powerful choleric. It's a very born leader personality, but they I was perfect until I messed up, Terrence. My oldest daughter is the melancholy. She is brought into our family to balance us out. She's the only one in the household that is a melancholy. And we need her desperately, although there is some friction. Knowing this stuff, though, our entire family dynamic thrives because all my kids know what they are. My husband knows what he is, or I should say how they're wired, what they are. It's not a mandate to get stuck in a certain position either. It's not to be used as an excuse. Like, I don't say, well, I'm scatterbrained because I'm a sanguine. I'm just naturally scatterbrained. So I'm not going to worry about all that little thing. I really try. I don't use it as an excuse, but it helps me set boundaries with when I am working on something and I start to feel like I'm getting overwhelmed. I know I'm scatterbrained by nature. I probably shouldn't take that on because it's not going to get done in the first place. It's when you recognize those weaknesses, then you can set boundaries in your life so that they're minimized as much as possible. The last one is the lady with the cup of coffee. Joel, let's play that one. The phlegmatic. This is peaceful, cool hand Luke. This is my husband.
Right in the moment, the sword is told. I told you to be patient. I told you to be fine. And I told you to be balanced. I told you to be kind. And in the morning I'll be with you, but it'll be a different kind, 'cause I'll be holding.
The phlegmatic, oh my gosh, the phlegmatics are also vital to these movements because when people like me and Lola get totally out of control, we need the melancholies and the phlegmatics to kind of reel us back in. And so that's the blend of all four of these. The most successful groups I've seen, all four of these personality traits are utilized to the max. And so I hope that was fun. And if you want to stick in the chat what you think you might be, sanguine life of the party, choleric is the born leader, the melancholy is the detail, routine, structured, and the phlegmatic is the peacekeeper, the mediator. That is my husband. Oh my gosh. And then a lot of people are blends. So I mentioned that I'm a blend. I'm actually the personality test Liberty Line. I'll put a link in the chat. It's in one of my Substack articles. I put the full test. In fact, I will get that in there and stick it in the chat. Once you do I totally lost my train of thought. It's how you're wired. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Let me pull this up on my Substack. Can't remember what I called this article. Or if people are seeing me on Substack, I don't know that either. I'm going to stick the link to the article in the chat just for you, Liberty Lion, so you can take the test and find out what you are. There it is. Dun, 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 dun. I found it. Okay. Back to StreamYard. Here we go. All right. If that does not take you there, do let me know. But that should take you to the personality test. So I hope you had fun watching those. My blend, I'm actually the dominant one I got the highest score in was the sanguine, but I'm also a choleric, believe it or not. It's my secondary blend. And so I have also companion worksheets built out for the complementary blends. So when you take the test, if you want to see your sheet of, in terms of grassroots activism, here's things you are naturally good at, things you might be struggling with, and here's some recommendations on how to work through those. That's going to be part of this guide. I'm putting that together too. So that was fun to put together as well. I've had a blast with this, quite honestly. And I just can't believe it started with a Rick Green saying, will you teach a workshop? And I made a handout for the students. And now, like I said, I think I'm at a 63-page book. And it's getting more out of control. I think my editor is going to be like, okay, you're done. That's enough. So I'll go back to the book itself. I want to see if there's other things I should, that I think they would want to see and preview. Yeah, keep going down. There's the introduction, tells you all about how it started and what it's for. And then the personality quiz, click on that one, the part that starts the quiz. think there you go. So this Liberty line is what is on in the Substack article that I gave you. There's 20 different, you have a strength assessment and then a weakness assessment. The strengths assessment is there's a list of 20 things and you're looking through each row and trying to figure out which one of those 4 in that row most describes you. So the first one, adventure, adaptable, animated, analytical. Which one of those describes you? And you go down through the list. Thank you for blowing that up, Joel. That was helpful. Go down through the whole list and there's 20 of them in strengths and there's 20 in weaknesses. So go to the weaknesses tabs too. And when you figure out when you're trying to figure out what you actually are, here's the weaknesses. These are the fun ones. Look at this, the top one. Blank, bashful, brassy, or bossy. I like, am I brassy or bossy? Probably more brassy. This is the hardest part to do. And if you're struggling, when you go through this, if you're struggling with it, ask somebody who knows you really well that you're not going to get offended by their answer to help you figure it out. This is sometimes with families, we do this together with families. It's a lot of fun. My middle daughter is a phlegmatic sanguine, and my youngest daughter is a choleric sanguine. So she's the opposite of me. So it's the same blend, but she's more dominant in the choleric. She's a little more, we call her boss lady. She's a little more boss lady, but she's having that cute little fun personality come out too, where she doesn't mind being in front of the camera and she's just turning out to be such a sweetheart. Okay, scroll down. So when you total this all up, you will get a total score, A, B, C, and D. And whatever A, B, C, or D has the most of, that's your dominant personality type. Whatever has the second highest number is your secondary personality type. So I think I just did it again the other day. I was 86% in sanguine and I had 14% of the choleric and very little. I had like maybe 1 in the phlegmatic column and nothing in the melancholy column. Shocker. So that's where you start. When you find out what are your God-given, how are you wired, how did the Lord build you, what it is going to be so helpful in this movement and really your life. If you take this to heart the way I have for my entire adult life. And now when I meet people or working with people, I can tell pretty quickly what they are. And not only does it help me work better with them, but it helps me stay sane. Because when you know that people have a certain tendency, they're not trying, so-and-so isn't trying to be a jerk. It's just they're task focused and they can come off a little bossy. And so I can let that go and just be like, I got a little bit of that in me too. And so I can just step aside and let them get their crap done because we've got to figure out how to work together. So I'm hoping that this is the game changer that I know it can be and was for me pre-politics. Right, Lola, give it editor has a problem. No, he's been really good. It's just I'm driving him a little bit crazy. There's a bunch of bonus materials in the end. Just keep scrolling, Joel. They don't need to see the whole. Oh, you know what? Show a chapter and then a session. Go to chapter 5, because that's the game changer, what to do when it blows up in your face. I think that one's going to be really helpful. Oh, you know what? I do have to fix the PDF link, but you can just get a piece of paper, Liberty Line, and do it that way. I'll fix the PDF link as soon as I do need to fix that. I tested that today and saw that it wasn't working. Yep. So there's chapter 1. I broke it down into chapter and then, there it is. Chapter 5, when it blows up in your face. So the chapter part is, let's be honest, conflict and grassroots work isn't just likely, it's guaranteed. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. You can see it, but scroll down. And you can see after the chapter part, which is short, it's just a page in some cases too. This one must be 2 or 1.5. Conflict doesn't have to be destructive. It can actually strengthen your team if you know how to navigate it. We're going to have to navigate a lot of conflict if the GOP endorses Stacey Garrity and Doug Mastriano runs for governor. Help us all. Help us, Jesus. Session 5 then is conflict resolution and problem solving in movements, and it walks you through activities so that you can role play. And this is going to really help. We're going to need this desperately. So that's how it's been laid out. It's a chapter and then it's a work session. And then a ton of companion stuff in the back that I've given every possible personality, anything that they could, I think, want or need to actually make this worth it and make it work. No, don't, Liberty Line, no dirty jokes. Don't do the dirty jokes. I can't. To keep it family friendly. If anyone has questions about it in the chat, again, I'm still trying to navigate how to offer. I want to reward my paid Substack subscribers, because really and truly, thank you so much. If you're one of them, you've kept this movement going, and because of your support, I can still pay for my kids to do a homeschool co-op and put food on the table and help my husband the way I always did in the direct sales industry with finances in our household. So thank you. It goes a long way. And I want to find a way to reward those who have stuck with me and are paid Substack subscribers. So if you want to upgrade, if you're free and you want to upgrade, you will get a preview copy, a digital copy of this before the official launch date. August 18th is the day it will be available for digital download. I don't know that I'm trying to see if I can get hard copies. You're able to go to a website, purchase a hard copy, and have it shipped to you. I can't guarantee that's going to happen by the 18th, but that's the goal. At the very least, I will have some printed in my home. And if you want one, I'll be able to ship it to you. There'll be a way you can pay for it and I will ship it to you. And I'm just working out all the other nitty gritty details of trying to figure out how I can get this out into the marketplace and have the best impact it possibly can. I'm doing another teaching on it. Next week, I'll be in Texas for Coach Congress with Patriot Academy. And I'm doing another workshop for the coaches and the military veterans down there. And so the more I get to test this out, the better idea that I'll have for those that want to use it. Terrence is pretty sure Doug is. I am too. I'm pretty sure Doug is running. Again, chapter 5. We're going to have to navigate some conflict because, yeah, we've been through it before. It's going to get messy. There's going to be people that are strongly opinionated on one side or the other. And we cannot have this movement collapse over differences of a candidate and a primary. I'm not saying you can't feel strongly one way or the other, but I'm riding the more. We got to figure out how to keep everybody together, regardless of the fact they might disagree on how this goes down. But we got to keep everybody together because Pennsylvania, we have got to get rid of Governor Shapiro. He is Soros backed and funded 110%. He's doesn't even hide it. He put last year around this time, there was a picture on Twitter that he put up on his own Twitter page of him and Alex Soros, George Soros' son. He has been handled by the media with kid gloves. They've been propping him up from day one. They don't ever criticize anything. Finally, now the GOP is starting to criticize some of the things that he's doing. The media never criticizes the man. You want to talk dangerous. He labeled me as dangerous. That dude is danger on steroids. And so I think it's going to be an uphill battle to get rid of him. I think right now he's coasting into re-election like it's no big deal and he has a good shot of getting reelected. That doesn't mean I don't have hope that we can kick him to the curb. And it's going to take all of us working together and not tearing each other's throats out because we don't like the endorsement process or how that's going or what candidate that you want to support. Because there might even be more people. Who knows? Other people might throw their hat in the ring. I know. Yes, Lola, that is because the choleric personality is right all the time. They are always right. They are never wrong. They struggle with that. That is how you are wired, my lady. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think if you learn how to navigate through that, it'll save your sanity because it's emotionally exhausting to fight with people constantly who don't agree with you. At least that's my opinion. Personal attack. Yep. Oh, again, it's a game changer. I am also looking forward to doing workshops of these. I'm trying to figure out what that looks like too. Certainly my paid Substack subscribers are going to get first dibs. I do have people asking, can you come do a workshop with the handbook once it's out? Yes, that's exactly what I want to do is workshops with groups, teach them how to navigate through these things. It'll be a blast. It'll make a huge difference. And so that's on the horizon as well. Thumbs up. You don't even like being told that probably, Lola, because you're just like, no, I'm not that way. But it's the personality is the way. My dad was my way or the highway. That was his personality too. But man, he was a driver. He could get stuff done. Little hard to navigate sometimes, but anyway, Terrence, that's my middle child. I have to determine if I have a part in that. Well, again, it's nature and nurture. It's both. And so you have to discover what is my natural tendency? How am I wired? And then your environment has shaped a lot of that too, which is why most people find that they're a blend. They're not just all one, although some are. They're typically a blend because you're wired a certain way, and then your environment shapes who you are as well. And the point of this is that God has designed you, though, for a purpose. And how can you use what he's given you in terms of your strengths to live out that purpose and stay sane? I've seen so many people leave this freedom movement. And there's multiple facets of the freedom movement. There's medical freedom, there's the school boards, it's not just election integrity, education with Patriot Academy. I mean, pick something. There's a group for every issue out there. And I've seen so many good people leave the battlefield from exhaustion and just they're emotionally spent. They just can't keep going. But I think if we can build in some of these tools that they can learn about themselves and how to work with other people, we'll minimize losing good people. I hate losing good people. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Oh my gosh. And then there's random person on Twitch probably putting in some type of pornographic fun. Yay. Okay. I think Joel's got a funny video for us this week. Again, next week, tune in. I will be live in Texas. If I can get the man, the myth, the legend, Rick Green himself nailed down for something, I certainly will, but I cannot make you any promises. We will definitely get to see some of the Patriot Academy campus, definitely get to see what the Coach Congress is all about. I have done tours of it when I was there before. It's really neat. It is literally ground zero for rebuilding liberty. What Rick Green and the Green family has embarked on is the beginning of taking back private property rights. They are literally becoming the government, forming Constitution City, Texas, and they will get to elect a mayor and 2 city council members. And when they want to build something for that campus, they will go to themselves as the government for permission and permits. And it's just the coolest thing. It's literally taking back we the people of the government. How do you do it? He's putting a blueprint for it right now. And I'm honored to be a part of it and excited to go spend another week down there next week. So I don't know, Terrence, if we'll regain any past participants. I hope if people resurface that have kind of been out of it for a little while, that this will be a tool that will keep them kind of long-term engaged. But I don't know. We're going to have to see. Again, the Holy Spirit is guiding all of this for me. I'm just going where God leads. And when I look back of how this was created with Rick calling me, asking me to do that, and now we've got this book, I'm like, this is really, if I had to say a sweet spot or something, in addition to, of course, I became very passionate and still am and always will be about election integrity because they freaking stole an election in 2020 and they got away with it. That's the most riveting thing to me still, is not only did they steal it, but they got away with the steal. We cannot just sit back and allow that to continue. Aside from election integrity being a big passion of mine, I loved watching people develop and helping people grow and flourish into who God has called them to be. And I think that maybe this is just where kind of my sweet spot, I'm settling into a sweet spot, if you will, if there is one, is doing that with the grassroots. So we'll see. Or it could be a total flop. Who knows? I said this to my husband the other night, like, what if I completely fall on my face and this does not take off at all? He's like, well, that's how success is. It's based on failure. You just have to keep trying. And he's not wrong. So I'm willing to put myself out there and have it potentially be a total dud. But I hope that it is not. And I hope that anybody that touches it, tries it, supports me, and just does it because you love me and want to support me, I hope that you are blessed by it and that it does make a huge difference. We caught them all. I know, Terrence, but perp walks. I want perp walks. And I realize maybe in our lifetime, we're not going to see perp walks, but I want to see perp walks. I agree, Liberty Lion. Keep the rhinos out. Okay, Joe, I don't know what this funny video is, but let's cue that sucker up and get a good laugh before we wrap up episode 40. I can't believe it's been 40 episodes.
Listen,
Brewers!
not to what she's saying, but listen how they interrupt and the words they use.
It's released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election.
Doesn't matter.
on December 5th.
We've been listening there to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, continuing on what has now been a multi-day effort, not only with public statements like this, but release of documents to attempt to back up the quite extreme allegation.
In the attempt to give these extreme allegations,
How do you not understand that is dipping in your mind and telling you what to think before you even have a moment to digest the situation? That is no different than I walk in and go,
this person is attempting to give these outrageous allegations.
and if you can't stand this person or you can't stand the other news, you're already all in. If I'm a liberal, I'm like, yeah, it's crazy allegations. It's just insane. That is called brainwashing. And if you're falling for it, you're being brainwashed. Listen to the words they use to manipulate your thoughts.
Some sort of
Conspiracy.
By the intelligence community at the time that Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
Multiple intelligence.
Listen again to the words they use. Are you ready? This is mind control.
Russia had neither the intent nor
Right now, someone's going, you need to interrupt the program. They're not reporters. CNN is not reporters. None of these new networks are reporting. They're telling you what to think.
I just muted my mic, my mic so I didn't have to cough. For all of you, I love that man. Oh my gosh, I love that man. He hates the media as much as I do. I love Jim Brewer. So I hear he's doing a tour. I haven't followed a lot of his stuff just because I've been so occupied with getting things done in my own household. But I do hear he's coming to churches and doing tours and comedy routines in churches. So hopefully he hits Pennsylvania again and I can get to sync up with him. Wouldn't it be cool if I could somehow get him on here? Talk about fangirl. That might be the ultimate fangirl. Oh my God. Anyway, awesome chatting with all of you as always. See you next Wednesday. Have a blessed week. Have a productive week. And we will see you next week. Good night, guys.